the record button. And as I was saying, we do record this, and everybody's given permission to be recorded by staying on the call. So welcome. I'm Edwin Rutsch, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy. I'd like to welcome you to our Module 1 of the Empathy Circle Facilitation Training. This is a 5-week training, and so glad you're all here. It's always such a pleasure to see the screen fill up with all the people. It's very exciting to see all these people interested in the value of empathy. And I'm the producer of this event, which means I kind of do I've connected with all of you, I've emailed with you and kind of set everything up. And I'm going to be doing more of the technical kind of background stuff, a lot of it to, create the breakout rooms and a lot of the organizational part. And we do have our two trainers who I wanted to introduce, are the ones who developed this training and are continuing to co-develop it. And we have Louise over there, if you want to wave. And then we have Bill Filler. And so they're the core trainers here. We've done, I don't know, 14, 15 of these trainings so far, and we plan to do many more. And we also have a group of trainees who are, their role is they're learning how to become trainers. So we have 5 of those in this cohort, and I want to introduce them as well. You'll be meeting them, and they'll be giving some of the presentations in this training, as well as facilitating some of the breakout rooms. And so there's Celine over there, if you want to wave, and then Michelle and Graham and Kat. So thanks for taking on that role. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lou, who's going to guide us through our introductions and check-ins.
Thanks, Edwin. That was a great start. And welcome to all of you. I'm very excited to be here and very excited to have you here. And we have a very powerful teaching team that's going to lead you through this training. And I'm really happy to be working with all of them. So we are going to do introductions now. And the idea is to take about 30 seconds to introduce yourself, your name, where you are, where you're coming, where you're located, and why you decided to take this training, and for the instructors, why you do this, why you donate your time to teach this training. And I'm going to call on people because it's a little bit more efficient. Time is a very precious commodity in this training. We don't have enough time to do all the stuff that we have. So we do some things for efficiency, like tell you, please limit it to 30 seconds, and I'm going to call on people. So I'll start with Bill.
Sure. My name is Bill Filler. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area in the US. I've been working with Edwin and Lou and the Empathy 10 team for about 3 years. And the reason that I'm teaching this is that I believe that this sort of kind of egalitarian experience of empathy is a game changer for the emotional development of our species. Just thought I'd go out into the woods there. Welcome all. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Bill. Celine?
Hi, I live in Southern Oregon in the United States. I think this is my 6th training here. It's part of my life now, and I think this is what the world needs, and that's why I'm involved, and I'm happy to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Celine. Michelle.
Thanks so much, Lou, and yeah, lovely to see everybody. And so I'm Michelle. I'm based in Galway in Ireland, and my why is my family was impacted by suicide about 3 years ago, and it's something I'm really it's really alive for me, and I really feel that empathy is like the greatest medicine for them types of situations. So both for the person and for everyone around them. So and the broader community. So yeah, I feel quite committed to it. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. Graham.
I'm from Windsor, Ontario, in Canada, and I have found that empathy and understanding feelings and needs is very empowering, not for me, but also for the people who I communicate with. And I also find the facilitation that we're learning here is also empowering for myself and for the other people who I'm interacting with. And so it's win-win all the way. And I think about what Bill says about it, empowering the universe. I think that was the kind of word he said. And yes, that's where I'm at. So thank you. I look forward to today.
Thank you, Graham. Kat.
Hi, I'm Kat, and I'm based up in Northeast Scotland. And the reason why I want to kind of progress the training is just many reasons, partly to develop the skills with the empathy and all of the practice itself, and also the teaching element as well, to be able to contribute to the cause, and also being able to kind of create that environment and look at a community near where I am to be able to build that. Thank you.
Thanks, Kat. And so I'll introduce myself. I'm Louise. I'm from Northern California in the United States. And I'd say the reason I do this is because what I see everywhere and over again is how people get into conflict or have trouble with each other, have trouble in their relationships because they don't understand each other and because they respond to difference with fear or judgment rather than a desire for understanding. And I really think that this practice helps people shift that way of thinking about each other, and it helps build connection. And yeah, so that's why I do it, both to improve my life and the lives of those around me. All right, so we're going to move on to participants then. Dustin.
Yeah, so I'm Dustin. Yep, my mic isn't off. Okay, good. I'm from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and I'm joining this as a participant because I really enjoy I've enjoyed the every empathy circle. This wasn't my idea originally. This was somebody that brought me in. Graham actually told me to give this a try. I've been a part of several of these now, and this is a skill set that I want to carry with me, and I kind of have made a commitment to almost indefinitely start attending these meetings and be a part of this. So that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you, Dustin. Geffen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Geffen. I live in Berlin. I currently am in Tel Aviv. And the reason I'm here is because I've been volunteering with people in emotional distress, helping them and giving them emotional empathy support, empathic support. I'm sorry, my English is not great, so patient with me. Thank you.
Your English is great.
Thank you. And I just hope this practice will help me enrich my my ability and skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Geffen. Kian.
Yes, I'm Kian. I'm from Vermont, USA. And I'm here to deepen, my experience and skills and knowledge with empathy in this practice. And also share Edwin's mission, I want to support that of having everybody doing this, and that, particularly for me, spreading it with younger people.
Thank you, Kian. Jenny.
I'm Jenny. I live in the UK in the Forest of Dean, and I've done a few of these trainings last year. I haven't done it for a while, and I kind of settled into a nice pattern with some friends around it, and I'm loving it. I love the slowing down and the paying attention to each other. I think it's a very powerful, useful tool, and I'm just interested in taking it beyond my, my near peers and serving the wider community if I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Leslie.
Yeah, thanks, Lou. So I'm here. This is the third session of the training that I've been doing, and with my son, Kian. And on a personal level, it's been an utterly transformative experience as a parent to share that with him and with those, immediately around us. And I'd say for me that the practice of really listening, deeply listening, not just to other people, but to the earth and life around us, feels all to the point these days. And this practice definitely draws me even deeper into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. So some of you may be thinking about, oh, you're hearing that people have taken the training multiple times. And the understanding of this practice and the skill with doing it is something that happens kind of in layers. So yes, people take it multiple times because they are deepening and deepening their practice, and that's something we welcome, and lots of people do it. Adelina.
Hi, I am Adelina. I'm located in Bucharest, Romania, and this is my second training. I'm doing this because I want to deepen my experience and I want to be able to share this practice in Romania as well.
Thank you, Adelina. Maria.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maria Ross, and I am located in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a brand strategist, an author, and a speaker. And I wrote a book. I spent years researching a book called The Empathy Edge about empathy as a competitive advantage for businesses, brands, and leaders. And it was my sneaky way of trying to get people, meet people where they are by helping them access empathy and be transformed from the outside in. I actually just did a TEDx talk on the topic. Called How to Trojan Horse Leaders into Being More Empathetic. And I met Edwin at my book launch party, and he has lovingly pulled me into this world as I've been meeting all these empathy warriors all over the world. And so I'm here, finally, Edwin, you got me in one of these, yay, to further my learning and continue my learning, because 3 years of research in it is not enough. And I'm out there talking about empathy. I'm training teams on accessing their empathy. And I just can't wait to further this, because I really believe the root of all our problems in the world is a lack of empathy. So I'm very glad to be here.
Welcome, Maria. Thank you for being here. Mina, is that how you say your name? Is that right?
Yes. Sorry, I just wanted to unmute myself. Can you see me? Because I can't seem to.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Mina. I'm here in Chicago, and oh God, I ditto what everyone else says. I would like to see more empathy in the world. Want to find a way to do that. I discovered in the last 2 sessions that this empathy requires a lot of deep listening, a skill that I feel that I personally need to improve on. So I'm very happy to be able to do this, so that I can, learn this skill set that's important in empathy. I also would like to use this to take it out into the community. I was starting to do some workshops on kindness and empathy in the library and community centers, but it has, because of the pandemic, we're not doing any of that. I also teach. I'm an adjunct, and I teach conflict resolution, and I was hoping that I could take some of this into the classroom. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Mina. Emma.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm in Southern California in the southwestern corner of the US. And I also feel empathy is something we could all use more of in the world, something I hope to leverage professionally and also personally in my roles as a parent and an extended family member. I live in a neighborhood that's pretty divided politically, and I also have family members across the really polarized US political spectrum. So I'm hoping ultimately to be able to bring some of these skills to my extended family as well.
Thank you, Emma. Janos.
Thank you.
Your audio has dropped out, Janos. We're still not hearing you. No.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go. There we are. I heard you there. You want to try once more? You want to? Okay, we'll come back. No, your microphone's not working. Okay. Camille.
Hey there.
Excuse me just a second. So Janos, if you want to type something into the chat, you could do that if your mic's not working. So go ahead, Camille.
Sure. My name is Camille Hoeb, and I live in upstate New York. And I was inspired to learn more about this program because I think similarly, as everyone has said, there's so much conflict in the world, and conflict between neighbors and conflict between families. And I was looking at empathy really as being critical to well-being, individual well-being, family well-being, community well-being, and planetary well-being. So that's my interest.
Thank you, Camille. Sam.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Lee. I'm located here about an hour outside of Washington, D.C. First of all, I'm appreciating the diversity of our group throughout the world. How wonderful. So I'm celebrating that. I came here for the many reasons, I'm sure. The first one that sticks out in my mind is the simplicity of this process, just acknowledging what the speaker is saying. So I'm going to deepen that practice to bring true empathy, which is listening deeply, compassionately. And so I'm looking forward to it all.
Thank you, Sam. Larry.
Hi, I'm Larry in Florida. Sorry I was a little bit late, and I'm here for the same reason we're all here for, discovering that really authentic empathy and listening is the missing link that can lead us to peace on earth. And that peace on earth begins inside of each one of us and lives there, and we share it that way, and that's the way it works. So that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Dolores.
I'm Dolores Jones. I'm here in Columbus, Ohio, and I am very interested in empathy in itself, and definitely this process. I have worked in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space for a number of years. I don't think I need to talk much about social justice and all the things that are taking place in the world today. And somebody just said this was a simple process, and you would think it would be. But I think it's simple, but not easy. And so for that reason, I would like to explore it across a number of practices.
Thank you, Dolores. So, so Janos, is your mic working now? Do you want to try to say something?
Yeah, I swapped to the mobile, so that's maybe a bit better. My name is Janos. I'm in Hungary. I'm from UK, Vansbury. And the second time I'm here because I want to learn deeply and discover much more, because I see this very powerful and simple process, what is really good for language learning, mental health, collective help each other, and also improve the soft skills, communication, leadership. And I want to, why I'm here, because I want to discover how can we use this in the co-creation process in a networking phase. Thank you.
Thank you, Janos. Wow, what a group. So again, so inspiring. And I want to echo just what Sam said about what a gift it is to have such a diverse group of people learning together. That is a huge opportunity and a huge gift. And so I'm so grateful that everyone is here and that we have this kind of diversity, both from different places and different cultures and different ethnicities, all the different kinds of diversity. And I also especially want to welcome and appreciate people who are participating for who English is not your primary language, your first language, that it makes it much harder to participate. And yet your contribution is very important, extremely important. So we're grateful that you are here doing that and stretching to have us have your bit of specialness included, that you're stretching so that we could have that. And so thank you so much for that. Okay, so who am I handing it off to? I don't remember.
Kat.
Kat.
Over to myself.
Okay,
Yep.
Kat, go.
Okay, so I'm going to cover the course purpose and objectives with you. And so the purpose of this training and the Empathy Circle practice is we want to create a culture of empathy together. And the learning outcomes we're really hoping that you'll take away from this training is that we hope you'll understand and become familiar with the goals and the values and the core structure of the Empathy Circle so that you can guide others through that experience. And additionally, we hope to deepen your experience of being in an empathy circle. So you're practicing empathy as a listener and as a facilitator as well. We also want to help you become aware of your strengths and your learning edges, your weaknesses as a facilitator, so you can learn how to respond to typical challenges that can arise in an empathy circle. And also
Kat,
finally,
Kat, I'm
yep.
sorry to interrupt you. There's a little bit of noise on your mic. Could you try toggling it off and on and see if that makes a difference?
Yeah, sure. Is that better?
Better, much better.
Yeah, okay. So we're just saying we want to teach you how to respond to typical challenges that may arise. And then finally, we're hoping that you will leave this training having established strong bonds with each other as we continue to support each other with our training and our growth towards building that culture of empathy. And that's the course purpose and objectives. And we can post that into the chat as well. Okay, so to hand over now, Celine's next going to cover the next part.
Okay, thank you, Kat. So I'm going to tell you the arc of the course, and you will discover very soon that we jump right in together. In the first session, the goal is to review the Empathy Circle practice, to be introduced to some of the core values of a culture of empathy, and to experience the benefits of the practice. And then in the second session, we'll focus on practicing the how-to, introductions, and begin to facilitate an empathy circle. In the third session, we'll demonstrate the how-to again, and we'll present more challenging circle situations. If you feel ready, you get to choose what level of challenge you want to experience. In the fourth session, we'll get more time to facilitate and discuss challenges that might arise. And in the fifth session, we will integrate your learnings and gather feedback about your experience. And so now I will pass to Bill to talk about the core values and principles.
Okay. So overall, we feel that the Empathy Circle is part of a larger vision of what we call, what Edwin coined as a culture of empathy. And that is the vision of nurturing mutual empathy between all people of the world, as well as humans in nature. And so one might know the technical, be an expert in the technical expertise of the circle, but there are some values behind it. And they are empathy. It's the core of the culture of empathy. Big surprise there. Basically, it means the sensing and feeling into the experience of others, and also having self-empathy for yourself and sensing and feeling into one's own experience. Mutuality. We aspire to reciprocal empathy between all people. A lot of times people will get empathy burnout or things like that. So we want to create a kind of culture where empathy is given and received. The next one is openness. To be honest and open with yourself and others is, helps you open to listening to others. And then finally, care, having a sense of what is necessary for the health, welfare, and well-being of oneself and others. And this is not a complete list, but it is somewhat, if you're doing the Empathy Circle, you should see or feel those, oh yeah, I saw care, I saw mutuality. You should see these things manifest. Okay, And then I will pass it back to Edwin, who will talk about his Mentimeter.
Okay, the Mentimeter,
Hey.
hearing everybody's values. What are your values? So we talked about a culture of empathy, you know, we're placing empathy at the center and looking at what are, you know, how do all your values relate to empathy and a culture of empathy. So we asked that you fill out your 3 top most important values. And I want to share the word cloud that came out of that. So this is it. You know, we see that most people valued empathy, which is good, since that's what this course is about. We had a lot of different values that everyone has. We have honesty. Well, we have quite a few here. We have safety, freedom, listening, open heart, system thinking, mutuality, kindness, honesty, connection, just humility, integrity. And there's so many different values. So what we really want to hear is, you know, that you have these different values and how do they relate to empathy. And it's really important when we're doing this kind of work with, you know, trying to build a more empathic culture in society. And when you talk to people, to know how how their values or your values relate to empathy. And I'll just share a quick story. So I'm more in the progressive liberal side. I mean, have been, but I was curious, like, what are Republicans' values? So I went to the Republican convention here in California a couple of years back, and I said, tell me about your values and what are your values and how do they relate to empathy? And you know, one person said, group said, oh, protection is important to me, you know, and I said, okay, you're really wanting to protect yourself and consider, yeah, we're going to protect our home and, you know, we're not going to have anybody, you know, harm us. And I said, yeah, that's important. And I listened and I empathized and I said, oh, so protection, how does that relate to empathy? And it was that you protect yourself against people who are not empathic. Right? If somebody's empathic to you, they're not going to harm you. They're going to be there listening to you. And he said, yeah, I guess that's really important. Empathy is important. And then we were sort of on the same page, like, yeah. And then the question was, how do we create more empathy together? So I think that's sort of part of, you know, your values, knowing how your values relate to empathy is really good. And we'll be exploring that more, and we'll be hearing a bit more about that in a few minutes. But the next, we're going to be going to Lou, who's going to tell us how to do the empathy circle process, which you have all done, but we'll just hear it from Lou. So you want to take it away?
Thanks. Lou? Thanks, Edwin. Yeah, so we're going to be going into breakouts, the breakout rooms in a bit to do empathy circles. That actually is the bulk of this training, is experiential, where we're in circles, either doing the empathy circle practice or facilitating it. And so one of the things that you will need to do as an empathy circle facilitator is to give people an introduction to the process, explain how it works. And so everybody does that a little bit different. And we do have a handout that explains it, and kind of going down that handout is one way of introducing it. And so one of the things we like to expose you to is different ways of introducing the circle. Everyone does it a little bit differently. So even though you have been in empathy circles and you understand the process, I'm going to take a minute to explain it, to show you how I explain it. So, so an empathy circle is an opportunity for people to listen, speak, and understand each other. And the way it works is, yeah, you get together, maybe 4 or 5 people. That's kind of the ideal size, is 4 or 5 people. And you take turns speaking. The turns are timed. So, you know, typically we do 5 minutes. If you don't have a lot of time, then you might do 3 minutes. But the speaker takes a set amount of time to speak. And before they start speaking, they select someone else in the circle to reflect back what they are saying. And the reflector's job is to listen to the speaker. Actually, everyone in the group listens to the speaker, but the reflector has the job of reflecting back to the speaker what you just reflect back what you understand the speaker is trying to get across, what they're saying. And the speaker's job is to speak, maybe get an idea or two out, and then pause so that the reflector has a chance to reflect back what they're hearing. If you say more than idea or two, it's hard as a listener to hold on to that. So as a speaker, you want to pause after you've expressed an idea or two. You know, as the speaker, when the person does the reflection, you know, if they missed part of it or they really didn't understand it at all, you can tell them that, you know, you got this part, but you missed this part. And then when the speaker is done, you know, with the timer is held up or some kind of time signal is given, when the speaker's done, then the listener becomes the speaker, and they select someone else in the circle to be their reflector. And in that way, the listening and reflecting kind of goes around the circle till everyone's had a chance to speak and be a reflector. And then if there's more time, you just keep going and you take another turn, another speaking turn. And actually the goal is to get to 3 or 4 speaking turns. That's when the circle actually becomes really interesting, is on the 3rd and 4th speaking turn. Let's see, other things that are important. As a facilitator, I will do a couple of things. I will keep time and I will give people time cues. And when you get a time cue, you don't have to stop instantly. You can just, it's a cue to wrap up what you're saying and get a final reflection. If the speaker is forgetting to pause after an idea or two, I'll remind the speaker to pause. And if the reflector does something other than just reflect back what they're hearing, like typically in a normal response, a person might ask a question or make a comment or add their own experience or, you know, agree or disagree with what's being said. So those are all kind of normal conversational responses. And the empathy circle is not a normal conversation. It is this specific practice of reflecting back what you're hearing. So if as a listener, you kind of forget and are doing one of those other things, asking a question or something like that, as the facilitator, I'll remind you that your role is just to reflect back what you're hearing the person say. The other thing I'll do as a facilitator is that if somebody is having trouble reflecting the speaker, then I might assist with that. So those are the basics of the circle. I would stop there. And I would say my goal as a facilitator is to take probably not more than 5 minutes, because if you take more than that, you're probably overloading people and they can't remember everything. And the second is, that you just want to give them enough information that it helps them relax, like they know what's going to happen, and to help them participate. But mostly they will learn about the circle from participating in it, not because you give them some long detailed explanation about it. Okay, so that's my introduction. And now I'm giving it to Celine, I think.
Michelle's gonna.
Oh, Michelle, sorry, my
lead
mistake.
us.
Yeah.
Michelle.
Thanks so much, Lou. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to go into the breakout rooms. So we're going to take part in an empathy circle. So the topic is going to be, how does your values relate to empathy or to to a culture of empathy? And so the trainers are going to facilitate this time. You will have 5-minute turns. We'll have about 1 hour and 20 minutes. So we're going to go to the top of the next hour, and then we'll all come back here to debrief.
Great. So it'll be room number 1 will be Celine will be in this room, Michelle in room 1 with Lou. Michelle will facilitate, then Graham in another room, and then Bill and Larry. Larry will facilitate, and Kat in the room number 5, and see you there. I'll open this up. See you in the rooms. And the question is in the chat too.
Edwin,
Yeah.
can I log in through another computer? I can't find my charger. Can you
Oh,
put me
yeah. Okay. I'll move you in when.
1 minute?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. I'll keep an eye out for you.
Thank you.
Edwin, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do the introduction again, right? Do
No,
we
it's
jump
just, you're
into-
just going right into just facilitating an empathy circle.
Okay, great. All right, so here's our circle. Edwin, Celine, Dustin, and Mina, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we are going to take turns, 5-minute turns, talking about our values and the values related to a culture of empathy or empathy, and or whatever is alive for you. And I will be the first listener and would like to hear who wants to be the first speaker, and I will keep the time.
Hello,
I'll
Edwin. Hi.
move you just a second. Yep.
Hello.
There we go.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have to take care of something. It'll take a minute. My landlady wants to come over. Okay.
You need to do something or?
Well, I did it. My landlady, when I went to do the timing, I got my landlady wants to come mow the lawn. So I attended to that. But now I can do the timing. Okay.
Well, I can go since nobody else wants to go. I can be this first speaker.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, and so just the question is, how do your values tie in with empathy? I forgot what.
Yes, your values regarding to empathy circles or culture of empathy. And I will ask you to speak in, small chunks. And if you don't, I'll do this because it just means I can't remember what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, no problem. All right. Yeah, this is an interesting topic for me because yesterday, as you know, was the for those of us who are in the U.S., George Floyd verdict, and as I was listening to that, I was actually listening to it live or watching it live on TV when the judge read the verdict, and I had really mixed emotions about it. Because I was watching it with a friend and he was just completely, like this is justice, this is the way it's supposed to be. And I felt, yes, that people have to be held accountable and all of that. But there was a part of me that just felt the sadness that it had come to this.
So I'm hearing that you spent time yesterday watching the George Floyd, the proceedings, the verdict, and you heard it live. And when the judge gave the verdict, you experienced mixed emotions because for your friend who was with you, there was a celebration. This is justice, wonderful, this is right. But for you, there was a sadness that we have come to this moment, this situation.
Yes, exactly. And my sadness was yeah, about the whole situation, but also, in trying to be more empathetic, I also felt like, what about I forgot the police officer's name, but who was this man? Why did he do this? I started to think about, like, who was he? Was he just born, evil, as people like to think, or was there something more to this? Did he what was his background? And so I started to read a little bit about him, just because I wanted to understand, like, why he would have stepped on this George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes. Like, what kind of an individual does that? And so anyway, I started to read a little bit about his background and his family, and yeah, I thought a little bit about them, the people that he's going to be leaving behind to go serve his time.
Mhm. So for you, there was not only sadness in a large way about the whole situation, but you've been curious about, I think his name is, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I would say Chauvin, the policeman who did this. And what was his life like? What was his background? What about him caused him to do this act? Reading about his background so that you could get more information and more understanding.
Right. And the other thing that I also felt was that I had actually spent some time working in high security prisons. I mean, I'd done some training in with prisoners. And I remember being in prison for, weekends to do these trainings. And I just absolutely couldn't wait to get out, because I can't imagine being cooped up like that, and some of these prisoners that I worked with had been in for about 20, 30 years. And, so I have the sympathy or empathy for people who are locked up for so long. And I just imagined this police officer now going into that situation where he was going to be locked up for the rest of his life, essentially. And I just remembered what it was like to be in prison, not as a prisoner, but just being a visitor, and just thinking, oh my God, his life is over. And, and I understand that he killed a man. I truly, fully understand that, but it's sort of, for me, empathy comes from understanding it holistically, not just one aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. So you've been thinking about what this man is going to experience for virtually the rest of his life. And you have been in high security prisons doing trainings and workshops. And so you know what that's like, and a little bit at least, or the horrible feeling of being cooped up and the atmosphere there. And so you're imagining the future for this man. And it's part of the way that you do empathy is considering everybody's experience, not just one person's. And our time is up now. So
I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mina. So Mina, now you are the listener.
Okay.
And
No, you're the speaker, Celine.
So yeah, so you choose a listener. Wait a minute, I'm the speaker and I
right. How does this go?
Sorry. Okay. Dustin, would you be willing to be my listener?
I certainly will.
Thank you. Okay. So I am very touched by Mina's sharing because I have a similar experience. I've been thinking about a lot of the different people who were involved in this situation. In a way, it's all the people in the United States and in the world in a way. So I'll pause there.
So you're touched by Mina's sharing. She shared her where she was at. You were touched by that, and you said also that you realized the weight that it has within the American society. This current event, as well as it's a multinational story at this point as well. It's made news everywhere. So yeah.
And I think about, I think there were two children, one kind of maybe a young teenager and a younger child who witnessed this and who were also in the court and who represent something to children of that age and children who have been living with this kind of crime all their lives, and how is this affecting them?
So you're saying you felt the kids' pain that were in the courtroom, and you noticed that it's a trend that's basically pervasive throughout certain sectors of society, basically. That especially younger people in certain areas of society have a difficult time dealing with basically the adults around them being criminals.
And yes, and the adults around them being arrested and mistreated for minor or no crimes at all. And so in terms of empathy, what those children and their families live, it affects me. It's very painful because that is not, I never had to think about those things when I was a child. And neither did my children.
So you said that it's the children themselves that are the kind of the ones that are suffering here in this circumstance, and you it sounds like you have a difficulty you have difficulty reconciling with it, and as you never had to grow up with it, and neither did your children have to grow up with that in your world.
Yeah, the difficulty, I guess, it's painful for me. I would like children to be able to have happy, innocent lives for a long time. And I see so clearly that that is just not the case.
Yeah, so you're saying kids should be able to be kids and enjoy their youth and be kids as long as they possibly can be. And you've also said that I'm sorry, I only half hear things sometimes. I'm trying. You said that it's also that you just wish that kids were able to enjoy their lives to the fullest and not have to deal with this kind of event interrupting that.
Yeah, that's, yes, in terms of empathy, culture of empathy, there, that's what I would like. I would like children to have an innocent childhood, and it's a dream, and that's it, basically. Yeah, thank you.
So you said that it's a dream that you want children to be able to have innocent childhoods and be able to grow up and have a good, wholesome, innocent childhood.
Yes.
I heard that. And it relates to empathy and a culture of empathy as well.
Yes, that's it. Thank you, Dustin. I'm complete. Okay, so now you get to choose a listener, Dustin.
Yeah, I'll choose Edwin. Edwin, I choose you. All right.
Listening.
So I'd like to start with saying I can relate to Celine here. I like relating after somebody shares, because it's in this format you don't give direct feedback, but it does force you to share on your own topic, like share on your own experience. And I love that about the empathy circles. I was just saying this to Graham, that this is really a really good format for getting people to share on their own experience instead of giving direct feedback. And where I want to go with this, with what Celine was saying, is that, yeah, I know that, like, I'm super blessed, along with a lot of people that fortunately grew up with a family that, we were shielded from that kind of world where we had, where we never had to deal with any criminal negligence or any kind of insane violence in front of us. Maybe I did a little bit.
That?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you're starting off by saying that you appreciate the process because it brings you to speaking sort of on your own, what's up for you. But you do want to sort of build on what Celine said, that your experience is similar, that you grew up where you didn't have sort of that dealing as a child with kind of like policing issues. And so you're kind of similar to Celine.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a good childhood, and I'm grateful for that. But I also know a lot of kids that I grew up with. And I also, I had some difficulty in my mid years, and I ran into a lot of people that had terrible, just horrible childhoods. And I heard about all this stuff. They shared a lot of stuff with me. I had a lot of friends growing up, and they shared a lot of stuff with me about the terrible stuff that went on in their houses and went on with people in the neighborhood and stuff. And you're fortunate if you have a good childhood. You really are fortunate if you have.
So you're just feeling gratitude that you had a good childhood, but then you were hearing, like, in where you grew up, that your friends, a lot of your friends had terrible things happening in their homes. So you're feeling sort of grateful that yours was a good childhood.
Yeah. And I just want to touch on this ever so briefly about this, because I didn't follow the story that far. Like I've had my head buried in a textbook because I'm just trying to get through my studies right now. But I'll say this quickly on this is when it comes to police, I'm assuming this is a police brutality situation in a way. Yeah, something like it's a police brutality situation. And I've been troubled with, because I had a friend of mine pass away, and it had to do with a police altercation where the police showed up at his house. And this happened in Canada, anyway, the police showed up at his house and there was an altercation and they shot him in the head. And this guy was, I kind of understand kind of like this police. I just couldn't understand because he was a good guy. I couldn't understand it. So for me to, it made me want to demonize police, really, is what it made me originally want to do.
Yeah, so you hadn't been following what this what the George Floyd issue in the United States, because you've been really busy with your school work, and you did have a friend who was actually shot by the police and shot and killed, and that really turned you off to the police, really.
It did. Yeah, it did. A couple of years ago, it did. I had kind of like how could they do this? What was the reason? I can understand if he got maybe a little violent, tasing the guy or something or whatever, but not, you don't shoot the guy in the head. Like that's the last thing if he had a gun, maybe two or something, but it just didn't make any sense to me. So years have passed now. And I've also reflected on circumstances in the past where I've had to deal with police in whatever circumstance. And I've actually had a pretty good experience with police in my personal life. So like to demonize police or like to put them all in the same category or something like that, or paint them all with the same brush, like they got a tough job. So yeah.
So at first you had sort of demonized the police because of your friend, but then your interactions have been fairly good with the police. So you just feel you just can't judge everyone, and because they have a difficult job too. So you have some understanding for them too, and a sense of not putting everybody in the same category.
Yeah, and I feel fully heard.
Okay,
thank you.
Then I'll speak to Mina. Yeah, you're muted, but I really appreciate what you brought up, because I feel the same. We're talking about, there's this in terms of values, right? So this social justice is this really like everywhere now, like in the media and everything. And I actually think that to a large extent, social justice just reinforces the status quo, a certain status quo. And I think in terms of how that relates to empathy, I think that empathy is sort of the alternative to it that doesn't get really, gets short shrift, I guess. So I guess I want to kind of explore social justice, and empathy.
All right, so you're saying you appreciated what I brought up, and that I guess you had similar thoughts on it, and how social justice really just reinforces the status quo, and that we should maybe expand social justice to include empathy, or empathy should maybe
I would say replace it.
Replace
we need
it, yeah.
we need a culture of empathy versus social justice, because justice, it has premises. As one, everybody's an individual. It means that you have to battle out for right and wrong. You have a retribution. Like everybody's like so gleeful that this police officer is going to suffer now. It's like, hey, great, he's going to suffer. And so it's retribution, it's judgment. And so the basic premises, I think, are not based on what sort of a culture of empathy would be based on.
Yeah. So yeah, so you're saying that social justice is not based on a culture of empathy, because it's about the individual retribution, and people are just joy that this man is now going to suffer, and which does not align with the culture of empathy.
Yeah, and empathy would be looking down upstream, I guess it's upstream. It's like, what was George Floyd's situation? You know, did he have an empathic childhood growing up? Did he have an empathic environment growing up where people listened to him? And he also listened to others. You know, he was out there passing bad checks. He's been known for having violence, which is unempathic. So there's it's a whole context of a lack of an environment of empathy that's kind of upstream that comes to this point. And the same thing for the police officer. What's their story, you know, going? And then you come and here's this event that happens. And it's, for me, it's a big empathy deficit, and it's an empathy deficit all the way upstream. And then the solution is not, you know, focused on healing and healing empathic approach either.
Right. So you're looking at both of these individuals' lives and seeing a deficit of empathy. Like what was George Floyd's life like? You know, what led him to this point, and then also what led the police officer to this point, and now, you know, they've come to this I don't know, this intersection, and where the solution is not very empathetic either.
Yeah, and then if everyone had learned empathy skills, these empathy skills, I can imagine the police officer, you know, and you know, George Floyd saying, well, let's have a little empathy circle here to talk about this. Like, you know, you just passed a bad check, you know, we're gonna have to arrest you. Yeah, I hear, you know, I passed this bad check, I have to arrest you, you have to arrest me. If it would have been an empathic dialogue that had happened to kind of de-escalate, it's like the police, the whole thing just kind of escalated, and empathy, an empathic dialogue would have de-escalated it there. And all those different events may not have happened beforehand if they'd had empathy upstream. So I just see failure of empathy all the way through this whole process.
Right. So you're starting with well, if they had empathy all through their lives, they might not have gotten to this intersection. But having come to this intersection, if they had an empathy circle, some kind of tools to build, you know, a dialogue with about like, why did you pass this bad check, and then, you know, had a conversation that de-escalated that moment, that perhaps it would never have turned into a one man dead and one man in prison.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. So much more about this, but I feel fully heard.
Okay. So is it me then? Do I go back to talking? Okay, so do we just go through the same group, or do we pick up?
You just select whoever you want. Just
okay. Well, I'll just switch it up then. Let's see. How about Dustin? Will you listen to me?
Certainly.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, I guess I'll switch topics then, because I think we all talked about George Floyd a bit. So other values that I feel relate to empathy. I work in nonprofit. I have worked in nonprofit. I'm not currently working in nonprofit. One of the things that I think about in nonprofit is that we are serving people. We're serving marginalized communities, you know, people who have had a lot of disadvantages in their lives. But I find that in most of the organizations that I've worked in, that the people themselves are not empathetic.
So you're saying that you've worked in a lot of not for profit in marginalized communities, and you're saying that the people that you work with were not empathetic.
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
surprised.
It would be. It sounds like it shouldn't be that way. And I have worked for, I would say, a good maybe 12 different nonprofits across the board here in Chicago, as well as in New York, where I used to live, and overseas. And so that was one of the things that got me started in thinking about empathy, was that here we are trying to better the world, and yet we ourselves are not kind to each other. We're not very empathetic to each other. There's a lot. Nonprofits have the same problems that corporate offices have, where people are, invested in their own careers and will do whatever they need to advance in their careers. And it always made me disillusioned.
So you're saying that basically you're surprised at the at just how cruel and or not cruel, but just how like you're kind of expecting a group of people that are supposed to be changing the world, helping the less fortunate, and they're cold people. They're not what you're anticipating. They're not the same as what you were hoping for. You'd think that they would be excited to help people that are less fortunate, but that's just not what you're finding across many states. It sounds like, just like anywhere really. That sounds kind of like the norm almost, what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not just that they're not excited, that they're just not as empathetic as I would have thought they would be, considering that they're really in a field where they're supposed to be serving humanity, and they chose this field as opposed to be, working in the corporate sector, where you're mostly concerned about the bottom line, making that sale or whatever it is. Where in nonprofits, you don't have that. Your bottom line is to improve people's lives. And so I find it a little disheartening that, and this happens in all the organizations I've worked, all the nonprofits. It hasn't just been, can't think of a single one where and not everybody, but people, but certainly people that run it are more concerned with their own pocketbooks and their own career aspirations, rather than the mission of the organization.
So I heard you say basically you're like, in comparison to jobs where it's like corporate jobs, where the bottom line is really the big deal, like making that extra buck, as it doesn't matter how you cut it, versus a job where you're trying your best to like serve the community, serve mankind, do something wholesome and benevolent, and you signed up for that job. That's a job you want to do, right? You say, this is what I do for a living. I help people, I do this. But really in your day job, you're just like non-empathetic, cold, and like you're just tired of dealing with people, and you just present that attitude towards the people that you see on a day-to-day. And that's the kind of, and across, like, you've worked for many of these organizations, and you can't think of a single one where people are more empathetic. Huh.
Right. The only thing is, it's not just that I'm that way. It's just that the culture of the organization is that way, where people are just cutthroat about getting, moving. I mean, this is just something that I've recognized, I guess, or I see, or I've experienced. But that the culture is just as cutthroat as a corporate culture would be. Because people are still, it's still about careers. And I've also worked for government agencies. I worked for the city of Chicago. Okay, it's my time, so I'll stop there.
I hate it when that happens. You're basically saying that, yeah, it's not just you. It's that you've noticed this amongst the people that you work with. And then you said you were getting on to the point about talking about working in Chicago, and then you kind of got cut off. So that was, yeah.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
All right, now I'm gonna circle back and have Mina listen to me, actually, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Totally.
All right, so yeah, so this so I hear you, nonprofit people, yeah, and this is why this empathy circle training should be like a kind of a prerequisite to work in certain fields. Wouldn't that be just the way? Honestly, I think it would be having if you're going to work for a certain type of organization. I find that these circles, the reason I really enjoy coming to these circles now is because there's a how do I say this? Anybody that joins these circles is a little bit empathetic already. You have to have a certain awareness of yourself to say, you know, I don't listen enough. So I'm going to stop there.
Okay, so you agree with me that empathy circles should be a prerequisite for a lot of these nonprofits, and you also went on to say that people who join these empathy circles already start out with I guess the bonus of being more empathetic in the first place, and because and also having some self-awareness. This is something that you need to do more of.
Yeah, I also I just wanted to mention this because this was something that Graham and I had basically gone over about the empathy circles and about Edwin's site, Edwin's website for this empathy circle. And this was another thing that I really like, is that anybody that joins these circles also has to be a little to moderately technically savvy to just navigate and get through the forums to basically find how, and you also have to know how to like start a Zoom account and like basically get online. And you can't just be just completely Luddite and like jump on board too, which gives people like, usually everybody that logs on is somebody that's busy with their lives. They're doing something. It's not, you're just not finding like a bunch of teenagers that are just stumbling across an easy link they found on Facebook or something like that and clicking on it, which I really like. So that's
so you're saying that people who sign on to this are sort of somewhat technically savvy, because there's a maze of websites and paperwork that you have to fill out to get to this point, which I think I can relate to. And so yeah, this is not just so somebody has to consciously figure out how to do this and then do it. It's not just for some teenager who just found it kind of by surfing the net.
Yeah, and my fear is that, and I just put this into the air and just hope it takes root. Sometimes you got to plant seeds. That Edwin will not change the site for even a little, like not even a little bit. If you're ever thinking about revamping the site, don't ever do it, because you'll end up with a bunch of 16-year-olds jumping on here that honestly you just don't need the headache. Anyways, I not saying that that's wrong, but it just there's a demographic on here that is rather pleasant at this time, and it's easy for me to handle. So I'm sorry for being selfish in that way as well. I guess that's not very empathetic, but I like that there's a certain demographic of people. It's usually people that are busy with their lives. They got something going on, and you also have to have a sense of awareness to say, like I said, there's a lot to this, and to even like hear that somebody else was doing this, because you usually hear this from word of mouth. That's how people find out about this, is word of mouth. And when they discover this path, I find it's like to say yes to this, like, yeah, I'll try that. You have to be a certain type of person too, like, so that's what I'm, yeah.
Yeah, you're saying that you're hoping that Edwin does not change the format because you like the demographic of the cross section of people that sign on to this, and that it's not just a bunch of young people, but people who are really busy with their lives and doing something, and have actively, said yes to doing this.
Yep. I sometimes I just want to pause here for a moment and think about what I'm going to say. Yeah, let me think here. Yeah, no, I feel fully heard right now. I'm good. Yeah, I feel fully heard, so it's good.
Thank you.
All right, so then, it's your turn.
Is it my turn again?
It's your turn again, surprise.
Wait, so I speak now? I forgot. I speak and somebody listens?
That's right.
Okay, so I guess I'll go with you, Edwin, because everybody.
I'm listening.
Oh my goodness, I have to speak again. I have to think about what I speak about.
Yeah, you're really surprised. Hey, I got to speak again. I got to have to think about it, what to say.
Yeah, because I thought, okay, we're gonna go in a loop. So the other things that are have to go pull up the chat, the question, because I really want to sort of respond to the question. How was one or more of your values relate to empathy and culture of empathy? Yeah, I'll speak to this. So one of the other reasons I think that has led me to this idea of empathy, or this culture of empathy, is that I consider myself to be a spiritual person, and that doesn't mean that I'm, worshiping, that I go to church or that I worship idols or whatever. But I'm a spiritual person in the sense that I believe that we are all part of the same oneness. And if we're all part, which is why I think I was feeling some sympathy for that police officer, because I felt like, some kind of connection to his angst, his whatever he's going to be going through. And so my value in one of my values is to see humanity, or the divinity, the divine, in every individual.
So you're relating to a culture of empathy that your value is oneness, seeing the connection between everyone, that we're all connected and there's a divinity in everyone. And you also try to see that in everyone. That's why you saw what's going on for the police officer, because you want to see his point of view too, and everyone's point of view experience.
Right. And I was, yes, exactly. And I don't think it was popular to think that, or to voice that out loud, or just to say that, because it seemed like, oh, I'm not sympathetic to the person who died, which I am. I am very sympathetic to how that man suffered. And that's another, area where I, felt a lot of empathy, because and I couldn't actually watch that. That was actually, my way of dealing with that was I couldn't watch his knee being pressed on his neck. But for me, empathy goes towards all human beings, because I consider myself to be sort of spiritually led.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're being spiritually led means that you try to empathize with everyone.
Exactly. Yes, and and I think that I think it goes hand in hand with empathy. That the idea that we are all part of some, the oneness, and that what you experience, if you experience some suffering, then I experience it too, and in some, at least I feel that way. I feel like that's kind of how I'm made, that I feel that the suffering of, animals and people, and, and to the point where I have to sort of look away, and I'm trying to figure out how that level of empathy may not be healthy.
Yeah, so this seeing the world as sort of a oneness is in empathy is sort of the factor that connects people, and that you feel the suffering also, and you think, oh, maybe that suffering is, if you take it on, then you're just wondering maybe if that's healthy to take on the suffering like that.
Right. And unfortunately, sometimes when it's like too much, I just turn away, or have to remove myself from that situation, which is what I had to do with when I was watching that episode. I just had to turn it off. And also in my work, when I was working with people that are homeless or in prison, or, oh my goodness, that I did have learned to just sort of be with that person and whatever they're experiencing, and just be the sort of a witness to that person. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot of, I don't know, energy to feel all of that.
Yeah, to be with people and to see and sense what's happening for them, especially their pain, it takes a lot of energy, and you tend to want to look away, like you can't watch the George Floyd, that part of the video, and you've been with a lot of people who've had suffering, and it's difficult, it's challenging.
Yeah. But I'm happy to be here and try to find positive ways to use empathy.
Yeah, so that you're glad you're here, because you can try to find positive ways of being empathic without sort of taking it all on, especially the pain, I guess, taking on the pain. Yeah.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay. Celine?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about a lot of times that quality of sensing others' pain and taking it on is seen as sort of a negative of empathy. It becomes sort of, they call it empathic distress, or they'll call it personal distress. So I was just sort of sitting with that.
So you're thinking about how this quality that's associated with empathy, and some people think this is empathy, is of sensing others' pain, and some people call it empathy distress.
Yeah, and I find it actually can block, like if you just take on someone's pain, you just sort of let it overwhelm you, it sort of blocks being present with them. So I think for me, the empathy is if I see someone who's in pain and I hear their pain and I reflect it and be with their pain, it keeps it from me taking it on, but it's kind of being present. Oh, this is your pain and I'm here with you in your pain, but it's like I'm not being sort of overwhelmed by it.
So you find that getting into and sensing and feeling the other's pain can be overwhelming and can actually block empathy.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear and reflect and be present to somebody else's pain, then that doesn't happen. You can just stay present with yourself and not get lost in.
Yeah, and actually that presence, being present with them without taking it on, can actually be sort of a warming feeling, like, oh, I'm not alone in my pain. There's somebody else here with me. And so that kind of helps ameliorate the pain for if you're able to be with someone who, if you're watching a video or something of pain, that's a little harder to do. But if it's with somebody, you can just reflect back. They feel like, oh, there's somebody here with me, and it can be very healing.
So you find that being present, accompanying somebody with your presence while they're in distress as a way of expressing your empathy can be very comforting and warming and healing for the other person. And it doesn't work as well in a video.
Yeah, if you're watching a video, I see videos too, like terrible things, like, oh, it's hard to kind of watch this. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what to do in that situation, sort of take it on personally somehow. Yeah.
So when you're watching something really difficult in a video, like the murder of George Floyd, it's different because you're not in relationship with the person and
Mm-hmm.
Being able to really be present to them.
Yeah, for me, what always comes up is, oh, why isn't there just more empathy in the world to surround people? Like you hear, there's like refugees coming to, the United States or Europe or wherever from, war-torn countries. And the issue is, oh, do we feel sorry for them or not? But nobody talks about the upstream, that those countries like Syria the reason that they're in war, that these is because there's not a culture of empathy, right? There's an empathy deficit in Syria. So the solution, maybe you got to deal with people who are in distress, but also got to work at the upstream, to make a more empathic culture.
So you think about, for example, the issue of refugees, and there's a sense of why isn't there more empathy for these people? And then the question is, well, what about the upstream, the empathy deficit that created the conditions that caused them to become refugees, and looking at that?
Yeah, and also that was that issue of the with the Republicans, going to the Republican convention, talking to them and seeing what their value was. And then by empathizing with their value of protection and then seeing the relationship to empathy, I was able to make the connection and then explain that to them. And it was like, oh yeah, empathy is good. So we were actually on the same page, right? We came on the same page, seeing the importance of empathy. And then then the question was, how do we work together to create a more empathic society? So it's finding those values and the connection to empathy and getting on the same page, with others.
So when you went to the Republican convention and were asking people their values and what would be empathy for them, they mentioned protection. You saw that it's two words for kind of the same experience. And in that way, you were able to create a connection and say, this is what I call empathy. And you were together.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Thank you. So I am, there's so many things I want to say, but one of them is that in my experience of empathy, which a lot of it comes
And
from.
number one is selecting who you're going to speak to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still distracted by this stuff that's going on around me. I will ask, Mina, would you listen to me? You're gonna, okay, thank you. So how I see empathy a lot is, I think comes from metaphors used by Thich Nhat Hanh. Do you know Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk?
Yes. So how you see empathy is through metaphors by Thich Nhat Hanh?
Yes. If I remember correctly, he talks about stepping into the river with the person who is in distress without any intention of saving them, pulling them out of the river, simply present. I am in the same river as you are, and I am choosing to be here with you.
So how Thich Nhat Hanh responds to empathy is by being in using the metaphor of being in a river, by I guess is it by being in the river, not necessarily pulling them out or pulling them out of the river?
Not pulling them out.
Not pulling them out, but just by being present in the river with them.
So I'm not going to rescue the person, and I am sharing experience, but I'm not losing myself. I also am not going to drown. I'm not going to. So it's monitoring how this is affecting me as well as the other person, and what is my capacity in each moment. Some days I have different capacity than others.
So the way he phrases it is that you're not rescuing anybody. You're in this river together, and to monitor how you're feeling and how the other person is feeling in this situation.
Yes. So I think it's a lot about presence, and that as the one being empathic, I have a lot of choice in, and I also am monitoring constantly my own responses.
So as a person being empathetic, you have a lot of choices, and that you feel that you're constantly monitoring monitoring those choices.
Yeah. And there's a word that is an old-fashioned word. It's not very much used. That is forbearance, that I like, because it is about, I recognize what's going on and I'm choosing to accept or to be patient or to be empathic. So for me, it has a lot of choice involved in it, and I like that.
Okay, so you there's a word called forbearance that you very much ascribe to, because it gives you, well, you said a lot. It gives you a lot of choice in how you're how you're feeling and how you're monitoring the situation, what you're feeling, what the other person's feeling, and how you're reacting.
Yes, it's thank you. Yes, And it's just that I'm managing myself in the moment rather than getting lost in my emotional response.
Right. Okay. So you're managing your response rather than getting emotionally entangled rather than getting emotionally entangled.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Oh my goodness, it's my turn again to talk. All right. I'm talking a lot today. All right, I guess I will go to you, Dustin, because I'm just trying to make it a circle. Wow, I have like a lot of this has been a lot of talking that I haven't done in a long time. All right. So I really appreciate what Celine said actually about I can never say his name, Thich Nhat Hanh. That makes a lot of sense, and it gives me something to think about when the next time I'm in a situation where you feel like you want to rescue someone, but you have a choice of just you don't have to be pulled down with whatever they're going through. You can be a part of it. You can be empathetic without having to rescue them.
So like you said, you have trouble saying the word Thich Nhat Hanh, I think it was, and that you said that you appreciate the value of getting into the water with somebody, but you don't have to be dragged down with them. You can be there and listen, and that's part of the empathy value. It's part of the value of empathy.
Yeah, perfect. And I think about this, in terms of other situations, like with my family or friends. I do sense that I do think they think I am more empathetic, because I feel like sometimes I'm the go-to person for when they want to sound out problems, which somehow I like that they think that, but at the same time, it's a big burden.
So you're the go-to, you're the group of your friends, you're the go-to person for when somebody's feeling glum, so they contact you, but it's a lot of weight on you. That's what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's nice, I guess, to feel, that you're useful somehow, but at the same time, sometimes I think, well, I want to do my own thing now. I want to read, and and I don't always want to be lend an ear to whatever they're experiencing.
So you're saying that you don't mind it sometimes, but sometimes it's a little too much, and sometimes you don't always want to have to be the one to carry the burden of hearing somebody else's pain, is what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is a skill that I'm trying to attain, where I normally the way I do it is I just don't answer the phone. But I would like to get to the point where I'm just gonna be able to say, hey, I can't hear it anymore, or something. So I'm hoping that through this empathy circle, try to figure out what that line is where you're getting too involved, and at your own peril.
So what you're saying is that you get a lot of phone calls, you're not sure, you wish you could, instead of just ignoring the phone call, you wish you could say, listen, I can't hear your suffering and your pain any longer. It is driving me insane. I need you to back away and cease and desist thine unholy banter. Basically.
Yeah, that's a little more extreme. I just want to be nicely say, hey, I'm sorry, but you may have to handle this on your own. But I don't know how to. I haven't done that, so I'm basically just trying to just don't answer the phone. But it is more difficult to say that, especially when it's like my sister or something. It's more because you feel, or my cousin who's going through a divorce, and I don't know how to do it.
So you're saying that it's like, it's even when it comes to the family unit, the closer family, it's difficult. And you're saying like your cousin that's going through a divorce right now, and you got your sister that she's got a lot of troubles going on and stuff, and you're saying it's difficult to be there for them all the time, basically.
Yeah.
Saying.
Yeah, I think I feel fully heard.
Thank you.
All right, I am going to have Edwin Rutch.
Listening.
My listener. All right. I like what Mina was saying in the ways of difficulties in dealing with people's troubles. For me, I'm a total opposite to Mina though. I'm gonna just be I'm gonna be forward on that. I'm gonna be for. Oh, I really wish I knew what the word that Adelina said earlier was. Anyways, it was forward something. It was awesome. Anyways, I'm gonna maybe ask her at the end there, but but I want to say that it's basically like you have your. I have a lot of family, and only in the last no, less than that. I gotta be honest, like probably 3 months, 4 months at the tops. I've been calling them everybody. I just said that's it. I'm calling everybody, and I'm making it a big deal too. I'm calling everybody, and I call them all the time now too. It's not just I called them all the time now. So I always make sure that I got a list of contacts, and I just make sure that if I haven't talked to one of them in like a couple of days or whatever, I call them and I see what they're doing. And I'm a single. I'm just leave it at that.
Yeah, so you've really been making an effort to call all your relatives. You have a lot of family, and you're just diligently calling them, and every several days calling them, making a real effort to connect with them.
Yeah, I haven't really shared a lot about this with anybody, but I share with Graham a lot about this. He actually is kind of in my corner with this. I share with him, and I tell him all the little nuances because he's third party. And I've also told my family members that I do this with Graham. It's like, by the way, I talk about this with my kind of my he kind of I bounce stuff off of him before I go and approach family members, because my family years ago used to be really strong. Like we used to be together. We used to have family gatherings. We always used to stick together. We call one another, and we squabbled a lot. There was a lot of squabbling in the family. Not for me. I'm old. I'm just turned 30 now. So like I was a kid then, and there was a lot of squabbling, but they've all stopped talking to each other. They had a little fight and stuff. Each one of them had their own little battle, and then they were like, I'm not talking to you for 10 years. And they just walked away from one another. The family kind of fell apart. So I've been like getting in there and being like, listen, you better call grandma, and you better call my aunt, and you better call, my mom, and you better call, your cousin Sal and your aunt Linda, and you're this and you're that, right? So I'm kind of getting in there being like, you better make the call because they're waiting for it. And they don't like it always, but I just continuously, it's like sometimes you just got to tap at them and be like, hey, call, make sure you're calling. Because it's just my plan kind of to try and get the family back together.
Yeah, your family had been very tight previously, but then some squabbles came up and people are saying, I'm not going to talk to you and anymore. And so they've drifted apart, and you're making an effort to call them, connect with them, get them to connect with each other, and just be persistent. Just really have persistence to make this happen. And you bug them too. Do it.
Yep. And every time I talk to them too, it's like I make sure that they know that, like, and if they start kind of hemming and hawing and being like, they bring up the thing or they say whatever, I kind of like don't put up with that at all. I kind of get in their face a little bit and be like, I don't care. That's old news, and call them. I try. I'm really trying right now. My uncle, or sorry, not my uncle, my grandfather, apparently, according to my mom, used to be kind of like the cornerstone of the family, and used to like get in there and make sure everybody showed up at the family gatherings because he was there, and I want to be that for my family kind of. So my mom said I could be like that. She said, you've got the drive to do it. And that's something that I'm really trying to aspire to. I want a strong family.
Yeah, so you really want a strong family, and it was your grandfather that really held the family together. That was, everybody would show up to the family gatherings because he was there and he was out there connecting with everyone. And so you really want to take that role in your family now to bring all the family members together and insist on it.
Yep, and I feel fully heard.
Okay, well, I'll speak back to you then. Yeah, really appreciate that story. There was a different thing I wanted to talk about, though. I wanted to just mention that Kian in the group is 14 years old, and he actually was the one who discovered the empathy circle and brought his mother. So, so I wanted to make that point about your comments
Fair enough,
previously
yeah.
about the 15 and 16-year-olds. So if you reflect that.
Yeah. So that you basically said that you want. Yeah, I can reflect that. So you said that Kian, who was 14, he brought his mother to the empathy circle in the first place, and that he navigated the site all on his own and found the empathy circle, and now he's gotten his mother involved in it as well. So that's good.
Yeah, so if you're watching this and you're a 15 and 16-year-old, don't be discouraged. Come bring your parents to it. We want you in the circle.
So you're saying if you're a 15 or 16-year-old and you just happen to be, because the universe has ears sometimes, because you just happen to be aware of that, is that you're saying that basically you're saying that if you're a 15 or a 16-year-old, that you should join the channel and log on to the empathy circle and be a part of it.
Yeah, and bring your family too. And then Kian is now wanting to teach or have empathy circle with other young people. So to have the young people, I really think that if this was taught, just a simple practice is the first step, a gateway practice way back in kindergarten or first grade or, and up, and then keep building on it, that it would just have a real impact.
You're saying that, and I'm so jealous I didn't think of this anyway. You're saying that that you just wish that the younger generation had a piece of this, because then it would spread forth pervasively throughout the universe. Basically saying that you would like more young people in on this, basically.
And that we had it into schools where they're learning it already in the first or kindergarten. Yeah.
So you're saying if it was taught in kindergarten, it would be good for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, my nephews and nieces are like 5 years old, 6 years old. I was already doing empathy circles with them, so I know we need a few 5-year-olds in here.
So you're saying that as well as like you've taught your nephews that were 5 to do this already, and you're saying that there's really no age limit to this. Basically, yeah. It's good to get them. Well, it's good to get kids involved with this as well. Even
yeah. So see what else have I got. There's something else. I guess somehow a flash came back about the police and what's happening again, like in Ferguson and all these. I would love to see the demonstrators sit down and have empathy circles with each other, and then we have empathy circle between the police and the protesters. I think if we wanted a cultural transformation, that would be so transformative, is to have demonstrators go out, sit down, have an empathy circle, make a space, come on, everybody, come on, police, sit down, let's have an empathy circle. I think that would really make some change versus a lot of what's happening now.
So you're saying it would be good to get the police involved in an empathy circle, basically dealing with the public as well, kind of, or dealing with
out in public. We have this empathy tent. We'd set it up. I never had police in the empathy tent, except one of them wanted me to take it away. he said, I set up an empathy tent downtown Berkeley. He said, you don't have a permit to be here. If I come back here, you're not here, you're in trouble, So yeah, that was my experience.
So the unfortunate is that it's unfortunate you haven't had any police officers involved in empathy circles. The only time that you had a police officer involved is when you were in Berkeley and the officer showed up to put you out of your tent. Basically.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I'm going to stay here anyway. So I'm going to see what happens. I was all nervous. And then his superior came and he said, well, we believe in free speech here. So, just don't block the sidewalk. So it depends on who you get. Everybody's different.
So like a maverick renegade, you decided to stick in your tent there and not leave there, even though the cops were basically saying that you better hightail it, and you just stuck it out, but you got away with it kind of too because the guy wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I wanted to be arrested for empathizing without a permit.
Martin
I'm
Luther.
still looking forward to that.
So you're saying that you would have gone to jail for this. You would have been like, yeah, take me away. You'll never catch me alive not empathizing, basically, is what you would have basically stood for your values.
Yeah, I
Or
feel
what?
her.
Yeah. Yep.
Do we finish now or?
Am I up?
You are up.
I'm up. It's me. Sorry. My brain is like, I was just enjoying what Edwin was saying there. All right. So I guess I will have Celine listen to me.
Sure. Okay.
All right. So I'm gonna continue on my offshoot of talking about my family, because this is enjoyable to me. Is that I wish there was like a class for this, where I feel like I'm twisting my mustache a little bit or something like that. Like I have a plan, and that plan is to get my family together. And I've slowly been doing it with like the help of, well, Graham just got his psychology degree. So I'm going to say with the help of a psychologist, and just like slowly but surely through, like, we have almost endless meetings night after night. Like for about an hour, I talk with Graham almost every night, and we discuss kind of the goings on of this situation and other situations that are going on in his life. We kind of back each other up, basically.
So you want to talk about your project for your family, which is enjoyable for you. You wish there were a class for this, and you have a plan for your family to get together, and you will say that you have help from a psychologist who is Graham, and Graham has been support for you. You've been talking with him every evening, and he's an important part of your project.
Yeah, and I call it a project, but really for me, like what it is, and why I say I wish there was a class for this, is that families these days have never been as broken as they ever have. Like there are so many broken families, and there are also people within those families though that there's like one or two individuals that are kind of like, maybe one or two that are somewhat what's the words I'm looking for? They're self-aware. They're like they could be the cornerstone of their family, but they don't know how. They could step up and say, I'm going to get my family together and this is how it's going to work. But they just don't know. They don't have the confidence to do it, and they don't know the ways about going about it. And I wish there was like a class for this, basically.
So what you're seeing is that families have never been as broken as they are now, or so many broken. And that you think in families, there's usually one or two individuals that have some more self-awareness, some more capacity, and who would want to step up and help, but they don't have the tools. They don't know how.
Yeah. And I find you need somebody almost in your corner while you're doing this, because I found that like I've been shot down by my family in some ways while attempting to do this, where I just stepped in a direction too far, or I stepped on someone's toes in conversation because I was pushing a little too hard, or however it was, right, to try and get them to, reach out and, stop being such a hermit and contact the rest of your family. But during this time, though, I kind of am fortunate that I have somebody in my corner, because I was able to say, you know what, I'm not going to just take this one incident and then say, I don't want to try doing this any longer. I'm going to keep at it. And I find that repetition, just like I said, just doing this, like, listen, but not harsh, but just like dropping the seed once in a while. Hey, so-and-so wants to talk to you, or like grandma wants to hear from you, or whatever it is. Just consistently, repetitively doing it endlessly is kind of the way. So, yeah.
So you're finding that it's really helpful for you to have someone in your corner, because you've been shot down or ignored in your family, and you're finding that the repetition, staying with the course, not in a harsh way, but keep insisting on folks in the family calling each other, checking in on each other, and not withdrawing. But your persistence is having results.
Yep. It would be, I've thought about this too, because this Zoom just really is the cornerstone of like any empathy circle, of course, in a lot, not any empathy circle, but in a lot of empathy circles. And for me, like, it would be good, it would be awesome to start. I got to try and get my family in on one of these. I think that would be awesome. I think I should try and do that. I don't know why I'm thinking this all of a sudden. This literally just came to me this moment. But yeah, maybe I'll try and get my family involved in an empathy circle sometime. That might be it. I might attempt to do that. Yeah.
So you're thinking about Zoom as a tool that can help in this project of bringing your family together, and maybe you can get them all involved in an empathy circle on Zoom.
That, yeah, absolutely. I feel fully heard.
Thank you, Dustin. So I will speak to you, Edwin. How are we doing?
I have, I'm going to send an announcement in about a minute that we're closing in 10.
Okay. So one of the things that I really value about the empathy circles is that I think it teaches people that we can really listen to each other without agreeing, that listening does not mean I agree with what you say. And I think this is key in terms of getting people who have, different opinions to be able to listen to each other.
So one of the strengths of the empathy circle is that people don't have to agree with each other. If they're listening, just to be clear, that doesn't mean you agree. It's just that you're listening. And that's really helpful for people who are at, maybe in conflict or in with each other.
Yes, I think that one of the reasons, I'm making this up. I have nothing to substantiate this opinion, but I think that one of the things that happens is I don't want to listen to someone who has a very contrary opinion to mine, because I think that listening, that I'm giving credence and I'm supporting their very wrong opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that this can be very new for people, even people in government, because they think if they listen, it means they've agreed.
Yeah, so this sense that if you listen to someone that you agree that that's why people maybe don't want to take part, because they're sort of supporting someone if they listen to them, and this happens in government and other places. So if you can get across that listening is not agreeing, that would really help.
Yes. I think also I actually experienced this once years ago, and it shocked me. I'm very naive in some ways. And that person thought that listening to me, or that my listening to him, that I was gathering kind of like proof that I would then use to contradict or win an argument, or worse, smash them, with the information that I had extracted by listening.
So someone was just very mistrustful, suspicious of you, that you were just listening so you could build up your case to smash them later.
Yeah, I was shocked and I was saddened. And I think that it has to do with kind of a general worldview. Is the world a friendly place or a neutral place, or is it a dangerous place? And that affects how people might approach empathy circles.
Yeah, so people, by their worldviews, is going to be how they approach the empathy circle. Like if they think the world is a dangerous place, they'll have more suspicion coming in, versus if they see it as more of a benevolent world, they'll have a different attitude coming in.
And I think that the process of empathy circles allows for everything to coexist. And so I value that very much.
Yeah, you see that the empathy circle allows so I think you mean like all the different opinions and to coexist at one time, and you really value that.
And I would love for children all to learn this, because I think they can handle it.
Yeah, so you'd like the children to learn it too, because you think they can handle it.
Yes, thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay, so we have 6 minutes. I guess Mina is. Yeah, I had made some notes. I'm finding I'm not remembering. There's things I want to address and I don't remember them, I guess, because I'm doing a lot of I'm keeping track of, you know, like all the rooms, like when we're here, like you just see Janos dropped out, he dropped, you know, came back in. So I think I got to make notes to remember things I want to talk about.
Yeah, you're trying to figure out what you should talk about because you're distracted with or have multiple responsibilities, you know, of the different rooms, and somebody just dropped in and dropped out. So trying to figure out what to talk about.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, in terms of the dynamics of the culture of empathy, I think you had mentioned that you're sort of the listener in the family, and I want to bring up the value of mutuality. I think the thing about the empathy circle, it's a mutual listening. It's not like, hey, I'm the person everybody dumps on, right? And it's like, I get to be heard too. So it's that value of mutuality. Empathy is great, but mutual empathy is even better.
So you're sort of reflecting on something I said earlier about being a good listener, and that while empathy is great, mutuality in listening is better. That you get to be there's some value in being a good listener, but you also some value in being heard.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking of Dustin, about him and his family, because I've done family empathy circles, and you know, it's really good to have support. And I think we need almost like a training that's just for bringing empathy circles, and you know, a culture of empathy into the family, because it's a unique sort of a situation, and you need support, you need sort of strategies for how to do it, and yeah, so it'd be good to have like a special training for people that want to do that.
Yeah. So in response or reflecting on something Dustin said about families, that you think that family dynamics are unique, and that they require a lot of training on how to deal with doing an empathy circle with a family, because the dynamics are just more unique than other types of gatherings.
And having that support that you mentioned was just really great, that we have empathy buddies, right? That you can kind of share your struggles with about, you know, trying to hold empathy circles. There's a lot of resistance, like, oh, I'm very suspicious, I don't know what that is. But if you can talk to your friend about it, it kind of gives you some energy, charges up the empathy battery to be able to, you know, find ways, you know, around those, that resistance.
So you have something called empathy buddies, where you can discuss strategies and tactics on how to deal with some of these issues, and give you support for when you're maybe doing empathy circles or listening to family members.
Yeah, and in the training, one of the assignments will be to hold an empathy circle with, you know, family or friends. And maybe Dustin can try that and say, oh, I have this assignment, I have to hold this empathy circle. Would you be willing to help me out with my assignment? So it's a way of sort of bringing it in, you know, finding a way in with the family.
So there's this, you suggest to Dustin in particular, but I guess all this through the assignment that we're going to have of creating our own empathy circle, to do this with your family and to say, hey, would you mind helping me out? I've got to do this as an assignment, and that may be a way to actually open up a empathy circle with the family.
And then we're also going to have a new assignment for this cohort, is if you can't do it just an empathy circle, you can just do 1 hour of listening to someone, empathic listening. So, we have 5-minute turns, but can you listen to someone in your family for 1 hour doing empathic listening, sort of scale it up. So just a 1-to-1 where you just listen to one. So that's going to be another option in this cohort.
So in this cohort, you're offering another option where you're listening, I guess, one-on-one for an hour of empathetic listening. If you can't do the empathy circle with your family or friends, that this is another option that you can do a one-on-one, just empathetic listening.
And that's sort of a gateway too for like a family member. Hey, I'm here just to listen for 1 hour, and all I'm going to do is reflect back what I hear you say, and that's it. I'm not going to give you any advice or anything. And then that's also a gateway, and I say, oh, that felt pretty good. Maybe I'll take part in an empathy circle later or something. So anyway, that's another sort of a gateway strategy. That's my time.
Yeah, so this is a gateway strategy where if you provide this 1 hour of empathetic listening, then maybe they'll be more open to doing an empathy circle.
Yep, I feel fully heard. That's about our time. We might have like 30 seconds. So, Celine.
I'm going to take a bio break and see you in the other room.
30-second bio break.
Yeah, that would be good. Oh, so we all get back together in this.
We're getting back. Yeah, you got like, everybody's going to come back in it within about 50 seconds. Everybody.
I love that idea, Edwin. Oh, Mom, I have an assignment.
Yeah.
I need you to help me with my schoolwork.
This will be so helpful for me. You're really contributing to me. It's a secret way to bridge the ice, right?
Oh, my Aunt Deb's here too. You're all here. How did you all know about this one? You guys, you're not supposed to all show up at the same time. My bad. Did I tell you all to show up at the same time?
Yeah, you got it. Leslie, did someone drop out of your group? I just see 3 people there.
Yeah, Janos had to leave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Poor Michelle, we got yanked back into the room in the middle of what she was saying.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Oh,
we could have stayed
Kat,
2 more hours like there chatting. That was just it's really sweet.
Yeah, welcome back. There was a couple of people that had to go. Dolores apologized. Some emergency came up. She had to drop out, and somebody else in another group had to go.
Janos.
Janos, right?
Janos, yeah.
It just dropped out. So yeah, so that's Graham. You're going to lead us in our welcome back.
Right. Just 1 second, please. So I just wanted to check on the nature of my task. So the idea is here to harvest our experience and share what you've enjoyed, and the idea is to summarize how your values fitted in with the culture of empathy. And so I'll call on you from my screen, and I'm going to go from the bottom right on my screen. And so that's you, Bill. Could you speak for about 30 seconds?
Well, we got deep into it, into paradoxes and transcendence, I guess to be brief and an attempt at profundity would be that I'm a little lost. It's just that it's sort of, we don't have the cognitive structures to talk about what's happening here. And so that's why empathy is so important. It's a felt experience that goes beyond our cognitive understanding and to a more emotional and heart understanding. And that's something development, and I don't think fully recognized by science. Thanks. That was my attempt.
So Bill, your big experience was is the experiential experience of talking about feelings and the like.
Right, because it transcends intellectual knowledge. Thanks.
Lovely, thank you. And Kat, can you talk for about 30 seconds, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we had a really good circle. We were able to go kind of deeper into things, which was really nice because we connected nicely to begin with. And the kind of topics were quite good in terms of sort of exploring where we've been and where we're going. And so we're kind of having a lot of imagery about roads and traveling and what's going on with our kind of thought patterns. So there's lots of really kind of good imagery and connection. It was lovely.
And so you enjoyed the imagery of your discussion and the connections that came out of it. Thank you, Kat. And Kian, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I just felt like it was a really enriching experience. We were talking, you know, touching on a lot of different values and realizing how they're all connected back to empathy and to each other. And like the word cloud, I just sort of started sketching out a web because they're all connected. I don't know if you can see some of the values. I don't know if I have time, but I actually wrote a poem about empathy, and if that works, could I share it?
Go for it.
Okay. Empathy, care, authenticity, presence, patience, common humanity, honesty, safety, reciprocity, kindness, all connected, interbeing, individual, all is one. Empathy, what is alive for you? Speaking, listening, giving, receiving. I hear you, I feel you, I receive you, I will hold you, I will hold you, I will hold you.
Thank you, Kian. Thank you so much, Kian, for your connection. And Larry, would you like to summarize your experience today?
I think Kian just did that. Thank you, Kian. That was so beautiful. And the empathy circle was just amazing. Bill, thank you. Emma, Jenny, wow, it was just amazing. I love these empathy circles that, as Bill was saying, goes beyond words to an infinite ocean of stars that transcends the monopoly game of the day-to-day life. Living in heaven right here today. Thank you all. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larry. And Adelina, would you like to speak for a bit?
Well, after Kian's poem, I'm out of words. He really touched me, and I have tears in my eyes, and yeah, it's been such an incredible group, and I really feel the connection between all of us, and how I loved how the values interconnected, and I feel like doing this. Yeah, I'm out of words.
Thank you very much, Adelina. And Michelle, it's over to you for a little bit.
Thanks very much, Graham. So just to finish up with Geffen and Maria, like we had a really profound circle. Like one of the topics that came up was on curiosity and how curiosity can break down divides, like if you're polarized on right and wrong. And there was a question on curiosity and how reflection fits with that. And what we were discussing was that in this circle, it's a mixed circle because it's like training as facilitators and that process. So it's some process, it's what's alive for us, and and it's like building the team and the culture. And just as we were being cut off, I was finishing sharing that, and in this reflective listening is a depth that can emerge that is so delicious and beyond any other connection that I know, that it's like something, just the people and the beings and the bones dissolve, and there's just presence that dissolves into one, and it's beautiful. That's what that keeps bringing me back to specifically to this process. Is like, it seems to, it brings me right to that place. And it just yeah, I'm really grateful for the people that were just on that circle. It was gorgeous.
And so, Michelle, it sounds like your real core experience was how this empathy process dissolves, and I forget the word now, into curiosity and care and presence.
Yes, it's the power. It's the power of the reflective listening technique, I think, that I think emerges as the cohort goes on. Like this, it's something that emerges. Yeah, and I think it's the thing that excites me most about it. Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. Geffen, would you like to speak, please?
Oh, I would love to. I just want to share that I am full with gratitude. I thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Lou. It was such a compassionate circle, such a safe place filled with openness, and I'm filled with love now. So I'm very grateful, and thank you. And thanks for everyone who's here. Yeah, just thank you.
Thank you, Geffen. And Jenny, would you like to speak?
Yes. It was so full and rich, and quite a lot of metaphor. You know, we were talking about the ocean quite a lot, and navigating, and water, and kind of bringing to kind of the idea of empathy, or this process, something that's kind of a bit mythical and a bit eternal. That it just seems to touch something that we all are really thirsty for. So gorgeous, moving, funny, intense, and very satisfying.
And you sense that the connections are deep, Jenny, I imagine.
Yes.
Thank you. Lou, would you like to speak, please?
Yeah, everybody's words are so beautiful. I think all I want to say is the magic that happens when people open themselves to each other. And I agree with Jenny that we have a deep yearning and a deep thirst for that. It's part of it's part of being human, is wanting to be connected that way. And the magic that happens when people do that is so sweet and so satisfying. Yeah, it's very nurturing. And that's what I'm hearing, and I'm feeling it too.
And I sense that magic is the key word, the key concept. Thank you, Lou. Camille, would you like to speak?
Sure. So this was my first experience. I really didn't know what to expect. And I have to say that Graham, Adelina, and Kian were it was a great introduction. This being my first time, I thought that I felt very safe, and there was that conversation in the beginning about vulnerability and openness. So I think I just want to say thank you to everyone in my group, and also for this empathy circle. Thank you.
Thank you, Camille. Maria, would you like to summarize what you experienced?
This is my first training, but I've been part of an empathy circle or two with Edwin before, and I'm constantly struck by how quickly you can connect with people you've just met when everyone is open and honest and actively listening to each other. And we talked a lot in our group about, oh, wouldn't it be great if everyone in the world was like this? And Lou brought up the point that we don't need something to change. We can just operate this way. We can learn these techniques and be this in our lives and how we can interact with other people. And my words, not his, but just this idea of being a model is enough. Like we can create those circles and create those connections that go beyond the surface.
And so being a model is the key to changing the world, if you like. Thank you, Maria. And Emma, would you like to volunteer?
Yes, I also want to thank the people in my circle for the time that we shared today and for people's willingness to be open and to share. There was, as Jenny, Ben, and Larry said, a lot of, and Larry said, a lot of storytelling, a lot of analogy. And so there was a certain meta layered quality to the conversation today, which I think is a reminder connecting to the value for me of open-mindedness, that these conversations can have a vulnerability to them, even if at times they're impersonal.
And I think you've enjoyed that vulnerability, Emma. Thank you. Leslie, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Graham. I think what I'm just struck by and sort of chewing on right now, like coming off of the last session's training, we started playing with movement and physicality, and I'm sort of feeling the influence of Kian. I love your poem. The poetry, the metaphor, the sort of mythical, the magical. Like I just feel like there's so much of our humanity that feels called in around this very simple yet powerful structure, and the heart that fills it. And I'm just very excited to explore more of that with you all. Thank you.
So you're enjoying this process, Leslie? Thank you. Sam Lee, would you like to speak, please, Sam?
Sure. I was grateful and held in the circle of just being fully heard. And it's very therapeutic in a large sense, and I could see how it could apply, in any situations before making requests. So, and leading with and holding that space of empathy and truly just reflecting what is going on in the other person, and seems to empower them to take the steps that's right for that person without providing any strategies or advice giving, etc. Really grateful for the simplicity of the process. And, yeah, just grateful.
Thank you very much, Sam. Mina, would you like to summarize your experience? You're muted. Mina?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was having some trouble unmuting. Yeah, we had some interesting discussions about some current topics and things that are happening right now, and how we can be empathetic to all involved and not just one person. I think I learned some new things, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about incorporating some of the things that we discussed and how to use empathy or not use them. Yeah, I guess use empathy to actually to enhance. You can to become more empathetic, actually, to become more empathetic without losing yourself in the process. So I was grateful for that insight.
Thank you, Mina. Dustin, would you like to summarize?
Sure. Yeah, I like this empathy circle. This one had every empathy circle has its own style, it seems. And this one we talked on. Everybody got a chance to share kind of where they were at, but we also talked, and I like that. I really like hearing when where people are at in their day and what's kind of like troubling them. I also shared for myself. I shared kind of plans that I have in dealing with my family very briefly. And then that was like the logistics of which were then kind of like brought to maybe having an empathy circle involving that. And I was like, that is I loved hearing that. Then Edwin kind of went on basically some of the logistics of that. And I thought that was just awesome. So that's what I took away from today's empathy circle. And I rather enjoyed it today. So yeah.
So you like some new ideas and adding them into your family?
Yeah.
Great. Celine, can you summarize, please, where you stand?
Yes, I enjoyed that we viewed empathy circles in the context of the business world, in the context of the world of news events that affect us all, and in the context of family. So the universality of the application of empathy circles was a fun topic for me. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Lovely. Thank you, Celine. Edwin, would you like to speak for a few seconds?
Yeah, our group had a wide range of areas that we covered. The one that really stood out for me was we talked about the George Floyd trial, because that's quite in the news, and the importance of seeing everyone's humanity, for one, and the other is seeing the larger picture of a sort of a cultural empathy deficit, that situations like that happen. You want to have empathy for all parties, but also going upstream, like all the situations that people didn't have the empathy that they perhaps needed, like before coming to that point. And then also maybe some disappointment about the retributive justice, justice based on punishment versus on healing, which is, the empathy circle is more about a restorative, empathic approach going forward. So just seeing sort of the big cultural picture of how we need more empathy and in the world.
Thank you very much, Edwin. And for me to close, I really enjoyed our little breakout room with Kian, with Camille and Adelina. And we talked about the interconnectedness of all of these values. And indeed, Kian's poem kind of topped the session. And we also talked about some of the very practical difficulties of empathizing. For example, the stress that builds up in us. And so we talked about that aspect as well. And right at the end, I realized that there was something a facilitator can do, like get the group to just do a little bit of easy de-stressing. Yes, Jenny, yeah. And it actually has quite a magic effect. And I must remember to include that as part of my facilitating. Anyway, so thank you very much, everybody. I've enjoyed today. Over to you, Edwin.
That was Celine is next for our closing.
Okay, well, next week will be session 2, and we will be practicing facilitating circles. So it'd be good if you are not yet familiar with the how-to. There's a PDF as well as video with instructions on the website, and you might take a look so you feel prepared. And then you will be receiving an email that asks you for your feedback on the session, a survey, and it's sometimes Edwin links it in the chat too. And we look at it very carefully, and take seriously your suggestions. So please fill out that feedback form. And also you will receive in the email the name of someone who will be your empathy buddy this week. And you will make a phone call that's maybe 30 minutes long, and each of you speaks for 15 minutes or however you want to organize it. And the idea here is that we want to have support. We want to have support as facilitators when we become facilitators. So this empathy buddy call is very popular and I recommend it. We ask that you try to facilitate an empathy circle with friends or family during the week if you can. And we look forward to seeing you next week. And we also end with jazz hands so we can take a picture of it.
I'll send all this out in email. If you we have jazz hands for our portrait. Let's get everybody in there. Jazz hands, Adelina. It's our group portrait. And Bill or Lou, I don't think we got you. We have to all do it at one time. So we get one picture. I don't have to edit the pictures together. Okay, very good. We got that official portrait. And also I'm going to put in, please post one feeling that you're feeling right now. And we'll put that in there. What is one feeling jazzed for me in the chat? We have peace. Who's connected? Excited, happy. So we'll see you next week. And if the facilitator or the trainers would stay back, we have sort of a debrief for us. So see you next week, and there'll be an
Thank
email.
you, everyone.
Keep an eye out for the email.
Good to see you. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Bye. 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 Bye, Maria. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.